All right, so we'll be going app development today, specifically how to set up GitHub and how to download Xcode. GitHub, the reason why we're using GitHub is because it's one of like the world's leading software development platforms where developers, whether or not they're individuals, they get together to collaborate. One second. All right. Yeah, so they get together to collaborate and develop different projects on GitHub. And you can also put a lot of different code types of languages on there. We're using Swift UI, but you can put on like Java or C or C# and whatnot onto GitHub. Yeah, and then Xcode is the IDE, the platform for which we're going to be developing our app, and it's provided by Apple for us. Yeah, and if you guys have any questions, you can leave them for the end, or if you have questions specifically for what we're doing throughout, just feel free to unmute yourself, or because like I'm sharing my screen and it's a bit hard to see the chats pop up. So you guys can just unmute yourself and ask, and feel free to cut me off in the middle of a sentence. Oops. Yeah. So we're just introducing you guys to the basics of developing an iOS app today. All right, so how do you get to the GitHub community? So, oops, sorry. So you go to github.com, right? And right now I'm not signed in to simulate what you might see. And if you guys can follow along with me right now, so you guys can do it on your end, if you were to search up my username, make sure you're searching in all of GitHub. It'll say specifically it's all of GitHub. And you will go down to users on the side. And then you'll see that's me. So you can follow me, right? And then, so while Jacob's presenting, I will be adding you guys as a collaborator to the neuroscience repository that we'll be using. So if you guys just follow what I just did, search up Annalie, then follow me, then I can add you guys as a collaborator. But let's just see first. So this is my profile. If I were to sign in, yeah, this is what you'll see. So if you have contributions, or my contributions are later in the year, and the contributions would be like different green colors, and you can also see what kind of repositories and what kind of activities you have done. We will be using the Neuroscience Amador Valley organization. And in here, it'll be in the repository Dementia app that we will be contributing all of our code. So I would be directly adding you guys to this organization. And once you're added to this organization, you'll have access to this repository. So the repository is basically a place where we store all of our code, all of our shared code that we have made. And in GitHub, if you wanted to create code on your own laptop, on your own local laptop, but you wanted to share it with your teammates, then you would put it into GitHub, and then it would be in this folder and project called a repository. When you want to see the code that you make, click into this specific file without the .xcode extension, and then you'll be able to see what kind of files are in here. All right. Yeah. So if you wanted to follow the other officers as well, let's see, let's go back here to the Neuroscience Amador Valley. You'll be able to find us here for the people. These are the different officers. Yeah, and then you can follow every single one of us. So if you guys could do that, I'll turn it over to Jacob for now.
Okay, so we're going to be going over downloading Xcode onto your computer, the actual IDE provided by Apple, right? So these are the steps. I'm going to go over them with you guys just so you guys don't get lost. And so first we go to developer.apple.com. I actually have it pulled up right here. And then you're going to want to sign into your Apple accounts. Since we do need Apple devices to download Xcode, I'm assuming that you guys have Apple accounts, but if not, you can go ahead and sign in here. I'm actually signed in already, and you just enter your username, password, it'll have you sign in. And then you'll get to this page right here. And when you get to this page, you're going to want to go to downloads for Xcode. And you'll see right here it has Xcode 12 beta 6. We actually aren't going to download the beta version because we're not sure if it has untested errors that we don't know about. So we're actually going to go to this button right here, more, and give a second to load.
Yeah, the beta version is actually just an unofficial version that Apple is releasing specifically for developers to use and test around.
Right. And it says Xcode 11.7 right here, but I actually have Xcode 11.6, the previous version downloaded. I don't know if there's any new errors that come up on Xcode 11.7. So you can go ahead and search for Xcode in the search bar right here. And Xcode 11.6 should have been released on July 15th, 2020. So you'll go ahead and click the plus sign right there, and you can download the zip file to download Xcode. And after you open that zip file, just follow the instructions it tells you to do, and you will have Xcode downloaded on your Mac computer. If you don't have a Mac computer, there is a workaround that, but it will take a long time because we do have to download the software of Mac onto your computer because it won't really work on like Windows software. So that's how you download Xcode. And let me go to the next slide. And so some GitHub functions that we will be using for within Xcode. So let me go to, actually not yet. So let me explain all the functions first. So first we have the pull function, right? And so that's basically bringing any changes that your collaborators make on GitHub to your local computer. So if like you're working with Jimmy, right, and he made changes and he like put those changes in GitHub, you would be able to pull those changes down to your own local computer so you could edit those. And then we also have the push function, which is saving the code you've written in your own project to and pushing it to GitHub. So before you actually push, usually what your computer will have you do is you have to commit your code to the computer, your local Git repository, your local computer first. And actually your computer comes with Git already. I know like other platforms have to download Git, but MacBooks or Apple devices usually come with Git already. So there's a local repository and there's the GitHub repository, right? And so the local repository is just on your computer, and the GitHub repository is actually online and others can see that repository. So when you're committing—
sorry to interrupt, there's a question. I don't know if you can see the chat.
Yes. What if our PC is too old?
Sorry, I was just about to answer that one. So if your PC is too old to get 11.6, we would suggest you get an older version of Xcode. You probably wouldn't have the same exact functions as like the newer ones, and you wouldn't be able to test out specific things that we might be able to use. But that's completely fine. Also, if you have a PC and you don't have the Mac OS operating software, which is specifically for Apple computers, you will unfortunately be unable to download Xcode. But the workaround is if you were to download Mac OS, which is a bit complicated, but it's always possible. The other thing that you guys can do if you don't want to download Mac OS operating software, you can still participate in our app development meetings, but you can test things, or you can like look at people's code on GitHub and still learn with us. We encourage you guys to still do so, but you wouldn't be able to test it out and code actually on your own project in Xcode. Yeah.
Thank you for the question.
Yes. Sorry, there's one more question. It was sent privately, but if for the people, it says only lets me download Xcode 12. So if you were to click on resources, right, if you're not signed into the Apple, right, if you're not signed into the website, you wouldn't have to actually do that. You would just click resources under the developed tab or downloads, depending on where you are currently on the site. But it's behind the scenes. But definitely don't download Xcode 12 because it's still the new version and the unofficial one is not released yet. And if you need more help, just like ask us afterwards. So, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you guys for the questions. So I think I was going over commit, and so commit is like saving your code to your own local computer, right? And so before you actually push, you have to commit to your local computer repository first, and then push is like pushing all of your files to the Git repository online. And we do have a warning. Be careful when you are pushing, because you could potentially be overriding people who have made changes to the online repository. And so you want to like you kind of want to divvy up the work, right? You want to have like a certain person working on something, like say you're working on a symptoms page, but you want another, and then you tell the other person to work on like a physical symptoms page, like something like that. Like maybe all don't work on the same thing, because you could potentially override each other when you're pushing. Okay. And so, oh yes. Okay, so we're going to be creating our own local Git repository. So let me go to GitHub really quick.
Yeah, so this portion, we'll be going over it with you just to give you a preview of what it would be, but you actually won't be able to do this until you have Xcode downloaded. So you'll be able to refer back to the video that we'll be sending out, and if you do have more questions, you can always email us. Yeah.
Yes, and so the first, to clone your repository so that you have your own local repository on your computer, right? So you're going to want to go to this green code button right here, and then where it says open with Xcode, you're going to want to go ahead and do that, and you're going to open Xcode, and it's going to bring you here, and it's going to ask you to clone it. I actually already have this one cloned, so I'm not going to clone it again, but you would go ahead and click clone, and it would go ahead and create like a local repository for you. So I can kind of show you with, I created like a test project here, and oh shoot, this is blocking the way. But up here in the bar, I don't know how to get rid of this. But there's like a tab called source code, and under source code, you will find these commands, the pull, push, and commit commands. So, and I described what they all did, and that should be it. Yeah, and oh yeah, if it asks you for a personal access token, so you would go to this link right here. And so you would go to personal access tokens, or this link takes you to personal access tokens, and you go ahead and press generate new token. And what you're going to do here is you're going to check off,
Yeah, you're gonna check off the repo box.
yeah, you're going to check off the repo, and it's going to check off all of those for you. I don't believe you need to check anything else off, because all we're doing is like pushing, polling, and committing. And then you're going to press generate new token, or generate token, and then when it prompts you for the token, you're going to go ahead and copy and paste it. And you want to save the token generally in like a safe space, like maybe a Google Doc or something, so that you don't lose it.
Yeah, the personal access token is basically just kind of like the replacement for a password, and it's really, really long. They advise you to save it and note it down in like a place, like Jacob said, like a Google Docs. But if you really do forget it and forgot where you put it, or just didn't put it down in the first place, you can always generate a new token and just delete the old one. So don't worry if you lose it.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm going to turn it over back to Ellie. And so let me stop sharing.
A few GitHub conventions. So you'll always want to make sure you have the most recent code from the master branch. The master branch is the branch where all most recent updates the ones that work, not the ones that don't work. Specifically, only the new ones and the ones that work will be on the master branch. It's considered the original branch that you can always check back to for any new updates that you should have. So before you push any code to GitHub, and remember, pushing is just putting your local changes onto GitHub. Before you push your changes, you have to make sure you pull everything down from the master branch and check that your code works with any new changes on GitHub. So that's the reason why you need to pull everything down. And if you wanted to, so branches. Branches are specifically different topics that you might be working on. So the master branch is the original branch that has everything. But in case you didn't want to kind of like ruin the master branch a bit and fiddle around with the original branch, you can create a side branch off of the master branch. For example, you could be working on the home page of our app. And if you didn't want to put it onto the master branch yet, you would create a new branch called home page. And then, so if you want, if more than one person is working on that branch, before you push something, make sure they pull it down. So it's not just the master branch. It really is any branch that you would be currently working on. Yeah, and that's the third bullet. And pull requests. So what pull requests are is just a request to merge two branches together. If you were done with your home page branch and you wanted to add it to the master branch and make it something that everyone should have on their own project, one, you have to make sure that it definitely works with the code. And two, you have to create a pull request and ask for review and approval before you're able to merge your side branch into the master branch. So I will show you guys where. 1 second. Let's see. So this one. Okay. So the pull request wouldn't be inside this organization. You would have to go specifically to the Dementia app repository. And I see many of you guys have already joined, so that's really good. So the pull request is this third tab right here. And if you wanted to create a new pull request, you just press this green button. And right now we don't have new branches. So you couldn't compare another branch that you have changed with the base. But pull requests are only created when you do have a different branch. So both branches should show up and you can just compare it. If it tells you that you have an error and that you are unable to merge the two branches together, you have to make sure and go back and fix the errors that you have in your own code before creating this pull request. Because the pull request won't go through if there are errors and conflicting things. And we wouldn't be able to approve it for you guys. Yeah. So do you guys have any questions? I think there are a few things in the chat.
I want to get onto the GitHub part for the Neuroscience Dementia app. I don't think my name is there, but I made an account.
You made an account.
Yeah.
So you're saying you can't access the Neuroscience Amador Valley one?
Well, I kind of got on the call a little bit late, but I don't know how to get on.
Oh, okay, yes. So yeah, like Yvette said, you and Amrita said, so you guys would have received an invitation in your email. But if you still can't see it, I can send you guys the invite again. But if you do want to, you can search this up. You can search Neuroscience dash Amador Valley dash dementia, and then / dementia app, and then jump to that straight here. So you guys can always access it here, but in order to be added as a collaborator, you would have to follow me. But if you can't see the invite that I sent you guys, just like ask me after our meeting today, and I'll send it to you guys again. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
I mean, it answered my question, but like for some reason it still won't look it up. Like I looked up the exact same thing you put in the search bar.
All right. Yeah. So we can go over that with you afterwards. Yeah. Do anyone else have any questions? No. Okay. Yeah. So make sure you always create a pull request when you want to merge your branch with the master one. Yeah. And okay, so a few things I wanted to go over with you guys for Xcode. So this is actually, once you finish cloning and download Xcode, right? This is what you should see. So the content view is our very first page of the app. So if you were to go into Canvas, which can be accessed through this icon right here. Canvas is a simulator that you can actually see. Right, so instead of building your code, Canvas automatically updates the newest changes that you have made, and you would be able to see it here. Sometimes it doesn't work that well because there are still bugs with it, and that's why we advised you to use 11.6 Xcode rather than the beta version. But yeah, so you can see first view. You'll be able to, maybe I should open it up. So there's first underneath this first tab, and there's second. So this button means it's a live preview. You can actually press between these two buttons. And if I wanted to change this, right, I could change it to be called second, and you can see this change automatically. So the canvas just shows you the most basic automatic changes that you would make in your own code. Yeah, and then I think Jacob was trying to show you guys this source control tab is where you can find the functions commit, push, and pull. And so you wouldn't be able to commit anything or if you don't have any changes. And as Jacob already said, committing is just putting it onto your local laptop. But you also have to make sure to sign into GitHub here. So if you were to go to preferences, or you can use the keyboard shortcut, go into accounts. Right now we are signed in as Neuroscience Amador, but there's a limit for how many people can actually use this Apple ID. So we would suggest you use your own, and it works perfectly fine if you use your own anyways, or your parents if you don't have your own. But make sure to actually add an account, and it would be a GitHub account, right? And continue, and then this is where you would actually have to enter your personal access token. If you didn't already have it and didn't clone it yet, and you wanted to go here first and set it up, you can always do that. But if you were to just download Xcode and then clone it, they would automatically ask you to sign in because you wouldn't have signed in beforehand. So just make sure before you actually start working that you're signed into your GitHub account and have an Apple ID. There are errors. If you guys didn't set it up correctly, there will be errors with, I don't remember exactly what it says. I believe it says something like authors. And if you have an error and you can't figure it out, you can just always ask us, and then we can help you guys with that. Yeah, but next week we'll be starting to code and to learn at least how to do Swift UI. So specifically, we're using Swift UI and not Swift for those of you if you wanted to look at some things beforehand. Yeah. Are there any more questions? No, okay. Yeah, okay. So I will go back to the screen and then, yeah, a second. Yeah, so thank you guys for coming today. If you have any questions, please email us at neurotech.amador@gmail.com. This is specifically the email account for any technical questions that we might have. And you would be able to email Eaton here. And if you wanted to also look at more resources, we have Swift UI resources. Hacking with Swift is an excellent website. All of those can be found on our website. And if you haven't downloaded, if you haven't joined our Remind yet, please text at Neuro21 to join.